Welcome to our fantastic webinar. Today we're going to be talking all about the power of groups and how they are going to be making your life so much easier. My name, as always, is DBB. Yes, you know me. And I'm joined with the ever illustrious Mr. Moif. So on today's agenda, we're going to do a quick overview of what groups are and how you should be utilizing them. Then we're going to talk a little bit about the behavior we kind of recommend that you utilize our groups for and how they're going to best affect you. And with that, we're going to talk about the power of auto-join searches, the limit to search functionality. We're then going to talk a little bit about the default groups that you get within Automate, because there's a couple of them that you might be interested in. And then we're going to talk about how you should be configuring these groups and managing these groups as well. Now, we're doing this presentation live, so if you have any questions, go ahead and type those in the question box that should be right below our faces. Yep. Either myself or Moif, we're going to be addressing those as soon as they pop up, or if we feel it'd be better for at the end, we'll absolutely do that. All right, so just a quick overview of what our groups are, and really how I always explain it, it's the backbone of automation within Automate.
It is.
It's really the most diverse and useful way that you can manage all the systems. If you're trying to do this per machine and you have a unique scenario for each and every machine that you have, you're never going to scale as a business. You're never going to scale as an Automate user, and you are basically just managing each machine. Yeah, you don't have to walk over to each physical location or drive over, depending on how far away it is, but you're still manually interacting with each and every machine every single time. And that's going to be exhausting, and it's not a scalable process.
Not at all.
Not at all. So really how we consider you should be using these groups is start bunching these machines up on how they're supposed to be working, and then provide your services based off of that. If you have login scripts, if you have software that you need to be installing, this can all be managed at the group level, so you don't have to worry about that anymore. Best example that I love to use is whenever I'm deploying an AV solution out there and I have a brand new AV solution that I want to use, we changed it up. I've already had my clients agreeing to use this brand new AV solution. I'm going to build a search, and we'll talk about why I'm building that, looking for that particular AV solution on the machine. And if it's not on there, it's going to add it to this group that's going to rip out any AV solution that it currently has and then install the brand new solution that I want to be deploying out. I'm not going to touch each and every machine and try to do that per instance. That's tedious, that's frustrating, and that's useless to me. Why would I even get the product?
It's a waste of the technician's time. The system's built to do this for you automatically if you set it up right, and we're going to show you how to set it up right.
Yeah, fantastic. All right, so let's talk a little bit about our groups and how they work. Well, the first thing you need to know is the query in the background that builds that group, that's going to refresh every single 30 minutes, or about 30 minutes. Yeah. So what's that mean? It's going to say, okay, what machines need to be in this group right now?
Right.
Hey, okay, here's a list of machines I've already rebuilt. Great. Now I can start applying the scripts and monitors and remote monitors that I want to utilize at that freshly rebuilt group.
So in effect, DBB, what this is doing is it's querying the database for computers, in this case, that match the requirements of the search, and using that to repopulate the group every half hour, so that perhaps we have the same number of computers being dropped into this group over and over again, or maybe a new system has been added to the network.
Absolutely.
And it gets dropped into this group and is processed along with the others.
Absolutely.
It's also possible that a computer could be dropped from the group.
Yeah, it no longer meets the criteria. Bye-bye, time to go.
And this is dynamic that way.
Absolutely. And with that, one of the things that we do highly recommend, there's lots of different options that you have when it comes to groups. We recommend all your groups should be grayed out masters. Now, we can get into the nitty-gritty of that if you want. Master groups tend to steal machines from other master groups or from other regular groups and put them into themselves, and no one's allowed to touch them. It's not really a scalable solution. Grayed out masters, they're willing to share.
Yes.
They have no problem with that. So you can be in a grayed out master group and another grayed out master group, and then it's going to be a coagulation, that's the best word I can come up with, of all the different requirements that you have from those both groups. So if you have a different suite of monitors, hey, we can go ahead and put all of those on that particular machine. Good example, I have an Exchange server. It's also a 2012 server. I have a different suite of monitors that I'm using on both of those particular types. Let's go ahead and marry the two. So now it's monitoring all the things that I needed to monitor.
Exactly.
All right. Another function that we're going to highly recommend to you guys use is that limit to search functionality. What's that mean? Well, you have searches within Automate that are effectively database queries that you're going to be building, or we have a litany of them that are also available that you can try out.
Every 30 minutes, these re-update themselves, remember.
Absolutely. So we're going to use that search functionality, limit that group to only those devices that meet that search's criteria, and that means those are the only machines that are going to be applied to the group.
So let me flesh this out a little bit.
Sure.
So if you have this search operating every half hour and it's limited to only those computers, and someone drags a computer into this group manually that isn't supposed to be there because they just decided to put it in there for whatever reason, the limit to search is going to toss that right out.
Absolutely.
And restrict this group to only those members of the search.
Absolutely. Keep it clean and precise to the types of machines that you wanted in that group to begin with.
This way the services that are being delivered only go where you intend them.
Exactly. We've all been in that, or I've been in that situation.
We both, yeah.
Someone had the bright idea of dragging a couple workstations over to your Exchange server group. They are getting software monitoring pieces that might be costing you money per agent to be deployed out to that workstation that was only meant to be deployed out to a server.
Yeah.
Now you have software, that machine's crashing, you have somebody at a front desk who can't do their job and they're mad, then you're getting calls from an angry customer wondering why this machine's not working anymore, and you're scratching your head trying to figure out why this software keeps getting installed on that machine. And then lo and behold, because you have 5,000 machines, you're not going to remember each and every one. You finally take a look at that group. All right, who moved this workstation over to this group? What are you guys doing? You're killing me here. Well, you use that limit to function. As soon as that group rebuilds, it's going to say, wait a minute, this machine's not supposed to be here. Let's get it out of there. So as long as those scripts haven't run against that machine yet, you're good to go.
Yep.
All right. So let's take a look at what that looks like in those groups in particular. So here we are on our Automate server. Now I'm in the browse section. This is the default look that you're going to get with your Automate system. They're not seeing that because I need to move that over there. Let's see which way, other way.
When you're working with two computer screens.
It is not wanting to move. Bear with me one sec. I know what I need. There we go. There it is. Fantastic.
Windows always wants to put this off to the right.
Always wants to fight with me. All right, so here is that Automate Control Center that I was talking about a little bit earlier. And here are all the clients that I have, but I'm more interested in the groups. So I'm going to click on this tab right here. That's going to open up the groups menu for me. Now, as you can see here, just by default, because I haven't added any brand new groups to this system, I have a litany of different groups that I can select from. Let's go ahead and look at our service plans. Big fan of the Windows servers. We'll go by my managed 24/7. These are the service groups or service plans that we have that are usually associated with Ignite. So again, this is how I'm going to be deploying all of my services out to my client. Any machine that is in this 24/7 group, yes?
Wait a second. So you're describing to me that the service plans are groups.
Absolutely.
Makes it all clear.
Now we put a little auto magic in the front end of that with some scripting and other things that we've done, but effectively we've created an extra data field that you're selecting to say, hey, manage this machine 24/7. Then we have our onboarding script go through, identify the types of machines that need to be in that group, apply that group extra data field to those machines. Bob's your uncle, you're ready to rock and roll.
But at its heart, it's just a group.
Absolutely.
It's just a group with some automation.
Absolutely.
That's powerful.
It's a beautiful, beautiful thing.
So the computers on this list have been added by the auto join.
Yep, the computers have been added by that auto join. And again, those are the only machines that are going to be in that group. So I don't have to worry about a bunch of monitors that I don't want alerting for workstations or for servers, alerting on workstations because it's seeing a lot of different criteria.
Absolutely.
There we are.
Ta-da.
And then let's go back to that auto join search. So over in the top right-hand screen, when we'll get back to one of those groups in a moment, you'll see here, I can go ahead and limit these searches based off of that criteria. So if I wanted to do that for network devices, for computers, or even for contacts, if you really wanted to do that, you can go ahead and set those up there. And again, that's going to give you a consistent policy. I only want this suite of monitors on my Exchange servers. I want to make sure these are getting pushed out to all of my Exchange servers. Let's go ahead and set up a search that's looking for Exchange and then apply all those machines to this particular group. Ready to rock and roll.
It's easy when you say it that way.
So here we are, back over on those groups. Let me go back to that main page here, and you'll see here, oh, there's that extra data field we were talking about. We built a search based off of that extra data field. But here's a litany of all the other searches that we have available. As you can see, there's a ton of them, and you can build these all custom to what your needs are. Do we have any questions yet? Or everyone
Not
following
yet.
along?
We are quite good.
Fantastic.
We have 20 attendees and no questions yet.
All right. So, and again, that limit to functionality, that's just this checkbox right here. Once you have that selected, that means only machines that meet that search's criteria are going to be added to this group. So somebody, I hire a new T1, he doesn't know how this all works. He decides to move a machine over there manually. Not a problem, easy fix. As soon as the search automatically refreshes, as soon as that group refreshes, it's going to check all the machines against that search, and then we're good to go.
Yep.
I'm a very lazy scripter. I'm
Me too.
notoriously bad at that. So I usually use groups as part of my logic structure with that.
Absolutely.
So what will end up happening is I will say, hey, any machine that doesn't have this particular piece of software, go ahead and add it to this group. And then I'm going to have that install script run against that group once every hour. Great, now that software's installed, fantastic. As soon as that search rebuilds, it's going to check that criteria. Oh, hey, that software's already installed on this machine. Let's get it out of this group. You're not running your scripts all willy-nilly and uselessly. I don't have to add all that additional logic overhead in my scripts because the group engine is already building that out for me.
That's beautiful. That's an automation machine.
Absolutely.
Gets entered into the system, gets processed, gets returned to the system. It's nice.
Good to go.
Yeah.
Right. So let's talk a little bit about those default groups. Now, currently within the Automate system, I might be a little bit off. I think we're at 275, maybe even 280 at this point, default, just to get you started. So if there is already a group built out and a search tied to that group, because each and every one of these are already pre-configured with an auto join, you don't have to reinvent the wheel. We've already done all that heavy lifting for you. I'm sure there is an Exchange group. I can't remember off the top of my head. We have one for each and every different server group that I can think of, up from 2007 or 2008 all the way up to 2016.
Every server role that we actually use and separate out, we don't separate them all out because it's not necessarily to treat a file server differently in Automate than it is any other kind of server. But Exchange and SQL are unique objects with databases in them that we have to take care of.
So. Absolutely. So we have a different suite of monitors for each one of those scenarios, and then we're going to go ahead and apply those out. That's also part of that onboarding process that we were talking about before with the Ignite system. So we have all these predefined groups. So if you want to add additional monitors to that, if you want to add additional scripts, you can go ahead and do that easily without having to, again, add that additional overhead from there.
So a quick statement on the default groups. Like any object in a database, the ones that we build into the system are in theory essential to the system because there's automation that happens on these groups and in these searches. So if you're going to take one of our groups and use it for your own purposes, and we encourage you to do so, if you're going to change anything, right-click, copy that.
Absolutely.
Give it a new name, and then it's yours forever, and the database keeps working without a problem. And when you go to the Solution Center, your work will not be copied over.
Absolutely. That's the last thing I want to happen to anyone. One of our best practices within Automate is don't get sloppy, make a copy.
Thank you.
But again, you have all these default groups. Go ahead, make a copy of whatever you want to make a copy of.
Everything.
Add whatever functionality you want to that, and you don't have to worry about us messing with your system when you decide to update it to the latest and greatest.
Absolutely.
Now let's talk a little bit about, because you may have noticed when I brought up the control center earlier, that we have different groups nestled into each other. Now, a lot of you technicians are going to understand that we have a parent-to-child relationship with all of our groups. So if I have at a top-level group a bunch of monitors, any subgroups that I have underneath that are going to be inherited from that top-level domain. So hey, if you have just a subset, or Exchange works much differently on a 2016 server than it did on a 2012, not a problem. You can build an Exchange group underneath that 2016 group and have a different suite of monitors there and still have the monitors of that base group as well.
Because in Automate, Multi-tenancy, being a member of more than one group, is an established fact.
Absolutely.
Every computer is a group member of multiple groups.
Yeah, just by the very nature of how our group structure is. It's going to be in that all agents group. It's going to be in a client group if you have that associated with it, and also a location group if you have that set up as well.
Yep.
Another great functionality of our groups is that we have multiple different types that are associated with that. Now, we're not going to dive too deep into those. Usually I keep it just with the original groups, but we have a lot of different functions, and we'll talk about that on a different slide. So if you want to set up exclusions, we have that functionality. You could set up a permissions group. I'm personally not a huge fan of those because I find everything I need, I can go ahead and do it through the user management screen and not have to worry about that. But I have known some people who have needed a scenario where they have very finite, granular permissions that they need to set up for a particular set of agents.
And we're not managing a network of 15,000 computers.
Very true.
We tend to work on smaller footprints.
Yeah, I'm not too worried about that, but I'm sure the guy who has 30,000 agents out there, yeah, I need to lock things down a little bit more.
Sure.
Totally get it. We also apply agent templates at this level. So if you want, or as you should be doing, I don't need my workstations checking in every 5 minutes with their brand new inventories.
Nope.
I don't need that overhead on my database. Could we handle it? Sure, but it's not really a necessity for me. I'm not going to be that concerned about it, so that's not really something, I'm not getting paid for it. I'm not going to be concerned about that. However, my servers, I'm going to be a lot more interested, and I want to get those inventories much more consistently.
Yep.
So I can set up these groups to have different agent templates, so the agents are now working and gathering that information for me much quicker. We can also set it up for remote access and things of that nature. Setting up ask then deny on a workstation makes a lot of sense. Ask then allow on a server, if they already have permissions to our Automate system, makes a lot more sense because no one's going to be sitting on that machine to give me permissions.
When you started out the original slide, you were discussing how Automate groups behave, and templates, if I'm not mistaken, are how they get their behaviors.
Correct.
And how they're inheriting their behaviors between parent and child. And they're distributed that way.
Absolutely. And then some of the mainstays of Automate are monitoring suite, making sure that you have all these machines checking in, looking for the things that you're concerned about and interested in, as well as scripts to go ahead and rectify these situations, or again, install software, uninstall software, whatever you need them to do. So now let's talk a little bit about configuring these groups. And as I said before, this really is the backbone of automation when it comes to the system.
Absolutely.
Those searches feed those groups, and then I'm going to apply all my agent templates, my monitors, and my scripts based off of what that group says to do, based off of what that search is providing me. It really is that center focal point and that primary gear to get everything else moving.
Yep.
If you are providing managed services to your clients, we highly recommend that everything should be done at that group level. Again, you shouldn't be doing this on a per agent basis. That's not a solution that's scalable. Sure, if you're a one-man shop and you only have 20 agents, okay, fine. But if you want to grow, if you want to develop your business more, if you want to get away from your workstation at some point in your life and get out of that sysadmin lifestyle, you should be organizing these groups, getting all that monitors set up so that you don't have to focus on those pieces. So here we are, moving away from that main screen, or going back to that main screen and how those groups look. Yep, missed that slide. You can see here that I have a litany of functionality. Based off that type, I can go ahead and switch that from original to some of the other ones that we were talking about. We can also set that master group going back to that one slide. Actually, let me bring that up in Automate so I can set up a brand new group so you guys can see exactly what I'm talking about.
Excellent.
All right. So let's say I am building out a group that I want to utilize for deploying AV software. I'll go here to create a brand new group, get on this screen. And from here I can go ahead and set an agent original type. Again, if I wanted to, this is mostly for automation, or I could go ahead and use that original setup that I wanted before. I can build out a search. Oh, hey, is AV missing? Great. Not a problem. I'm going to go ahead and limit that search. So now any machine that doesn't have an AV solution on there, it's going to automatically be inherited to this group, and I can now apply scripts to it as well. I don't really need an agent template for deploying software out. It's already getting that inventory from those other groups that are inherited above it, and that default group that I have that's going to pull that inventory once every hour. Not something I'm worried about. Linking is a function that you can utilize sometimes, depending on if you want to link this to a particular client or location. You can go ahead and select one of these drops or these radio buttons right here. I can select a client. So as soon as a device is added to that client, it's now going to be added to this group as well. So if you wanted to limit this to, say, one particular client that you were interested in deploying that you just acquired, not a problem, you can go ahead and do that.
So this is going to filter the search, so that this is only going to give you, in this case, systems from the ConnectWise client that are missing antivirus.
Absolutely.
Beautiful.
All right. If I wanted to, I could set up a maintenance window. So if I've already negotiated that and I am linking this to a particular client, he says, hey, you can do whatever you want on my machines after 6 o'clock at night. I'm not worried about that. Not a big deal. Great. I don't really need a maintenance mode for that per se. But if you have one of these clients that have much more draconian needs, here's the 1 hour you are allowed to work on my machines ever for the entire week. Heck, I've seen some that are once every month.
It happens more often than you'd like to think.
Which is unfortunate. But I could go ahead and build out a maintenance window and then apply it to these machines. So now when I'm working on these machines, I don't have the rest of my help desk getting a bunch of alerts that aren't really necessary for them.
Sure, if you're rebooting a machine, they don't need to get alerted about it.
Yeah, you know that. Hey, this machine's offline. Yeah, I know. I literally have the hard drive in my hand. Pretty sure it's offline. Thanks, Automate. But again, if you want to set up that maintenance window here, you have that functionality.
Oh, master group.
Yep. Oh, excuse me. Yes, I did skip over that master group. So here's that checkbox that we were talking about for masters and non-masters. If I leave that blank, that means it's going to be a non-master group. That single checkbox means it's a master. But when I click it again and I get that full box, that means it's a grayed out master. Again, it now has the ability to inherit other machines from other groups without manually ripping them out. And then you have a situation where groups are fighting with each other.
Exactly.
Pulling machines out all the time. That's not necessary. We're all here to play in the pool together.
We can play nice.
Exactly.
With grayed out masters.
With those grayed out masters. Alrighty. Now I believe that I hit all the highlights from here. Going back to that master, those auto joins that we showed you beforehand, the linking functionality, as well as those maintenance windows. And then also, if I wanted to, I can set up permissions here as well. So if I only want specific technicians to be able to utilize these, hey, only my LT admins can really mess with machines that are associated with this group. I don't want my help desk guys going with it. These are my servers. Or, for example, if I wanted to, only my NOC users. Those are these high availability servers. I don't want just anyone remoting in or running steps on these machines.
Yep.
Let's go ahead and add these groups on here. And if that changes, hey, no problem. We can just double click and remove any of those groups as well. And then if you need anything else, any clarifying notes for why this group exists, you can go ahead and add that at the bottom here. Then once you're done, you can hit that create button.
I really like the notes section in a lot of Automate panels because we're not the only people operating in the system, and a downstream technician from you, the guy who designed the group, is going to be operating this later on without your guidance. You might not even be in the building or in the company anymore. This could be years down the line.
Absolutely.
And your wisdom from what you knew setting this up is still there.
Yeah. I've been many times that I've looked at a group and I have no clue why anyone set this up, and the name means literally nothing to me.
Yes.
But they did fill out that notes section, so now I understand what their logic was. Not typical to this conversation, but I've had it many times where I've been on a phone call. It's like, I have no clue how to make this script do what I need it to do. Well, I check the notes section. Oh, look, there's a function that I can use, and this is exactly what this script does and why it does it. Hey, now I can tell you that.
Yep.
So many times that's happened.
Makes us look smart.
Alrighty. There's that note section as well. All right. Again, we've already dove into this a little bit more, so you know exactly what we're talking about. So now we can talk about managing those groups. So hey, I have all the groups configured. I have the machines that I want in them. what am I going to be doing now? Well, now it's going to start pulling those computers because you have that search. And I can start using these very similar to how I could use a data view. If I go over to computers in the members list, hey, this Windows 8 machine is offline, but that's the one I need to work on. No problem. I can right click here just like I could in any data view.
Absolutely.
Run a wake on LAN command, kick that machine back off, and now I'm ready to go. Didn't have to call somebody at that office, ask them to hit the power button.
Nope.
They don't know, or they hit the power button on the wrong machine.
Bad stuff.
Bad stuff can happen like that. So easy thing, any scripts that I want to run easily can be done from here as well. I can also sort through any of the network devices that I have on here. Oh, hey, again, here's all those network devices that I have on this particular location because I have a network probe set up here as well, or they all meet that search criteria for the network devices I was looking for. I can manage them all in one single place. If I want to build out a group for all of my routers, sure, no problem. I've built out some PowerShell scripts that I can utilize against these machines. More power to you, or other functionality that I want to utilize.
Now, while it's possible to have a group consisting of computers, contacts, network devices, and all of the above, is this necessarily a good idea, or do you want to separate them?
I would highly recommend separating them. Again, you want to keep these organized and task-oriented as much as possible. This group is designed for one particular thing. I have applied the monitors based off that particular thing, and that's all I wanted to do. If you start building these grandiose groups, then it becomes a nightmare to manage in the long run.
So keep it simple is a great...
Keep it simple is definitely one of the easier options I can do.
Perfect.
Kiss with one S.
Yes.
Yeah.
Keep it simple, sir.
Oh, that's it. Excuse me, I forgot that part. And then you also have this functionality for contacts. Not something I particularly use very often, but I do know, again, if you have a litany of clients, a huge infrastructure, you have a lot of satellite offices, this could be really beneficial to you. Hey, I need to send messaging out to an entire group of people, not a problem. Let's limit the criteria. Let's build out a search, limit that criteria, add that to a group, and then build out a script to go ahead and email everyone when it's patch day or something along those lines.
Absolutely, because groups are meant to organize what's in your database. It all depends on what you're organizing. Are you organizing network devices, contacts? Do you have enough contacts to organize?
Yeah.
Many people do,
Yeah.
in which case this is a great solution for it.
Absolutely.
Info.
And then we have our info and our status tab and our managed service functionality. So let me go ahead and show you guys that within the Automate system, what we're talking about. The info tab is incredibly useful. I believe actually we got a question a little bit earlier this week. A partner was asking, hey, if I want to have a group that's auto-joined, but I also want to have the functionality to where we can manually add people, how would I be able to accomplish that? Well, actually, I would do that with two groups, again, because I'm a little bit lazy on this. So I would build out that auto join group so my machines are automatically added to it. I'm going to go ahead and assume that he has some level of permissions that he wants associated with those ones that he wants to manually add.
Sure.
I'd build a second group for that manual add, limit the permissions to that group so only certain users could add machines to it.
Yep.
And then go ahead and give them the ability to right click to that, have an extra data field tied, schedule a script on that second group to go ahead and add people with that extra data field that people can't manually alter.
Yep.
And then move that over to that second group, or that first group, excuse me.
And so long as the attributes of both groups are identical,
Yeah.
they have the same script running on them at more or less the same time, then those groups are doing the same thing with different members.
Absolutely.
And you have, in effect, what the partner was looking for, the single, in this case, two groups doing the same thing, one with members from an auto join, one with manual members.
Absolutely. And
like
if you add that manual as a subgroup to that parent group, then it's going to inherit all the monitors and scripts that you wanted initially on it, so you don't have to worry about that synchronization. That subgroup's only going to have that assigning feature to it for that extra data field.
Yes.
So now it's okay, all these machines are automatically going to be added to it. You as the admin know, okay, all these particular machines need to be added to this one group.
Yep.
Let's go ahead and add those to this group.
Absolutely. We have a question.
Oh, okay.
Why are some computers being detected as network devices? Talking about the LT server being detected as a network device.
On that screen. That was because we were doing some tests on that particular machine, so we could have a network device, so we ripped the agent off of it, so it was discovered just as a network device because there wasn't an agent associated with that. If you're seeing that in your site, that's because you've detected machines, but you haven't deployed an agent out to them yet.
Yep. And the next question, statement, Alan says, if you don't want them to leave, just remove the checkbox to limit the search to search results. I'm not certain what context you're saying that in, Alan.
I think he's talking about in that particular scenario that we were talking about where the partner wanted an automated group and
Yes.
that auto join as well as a manual functionality. That would work, but then that means also that anybody could add machines to that group and there's no way to kick them out. So I wanted to still give them that
Right.
functionality and that usefulness of having that limit to search functionality, but still be able to manually add machines to it.
Right.
So if you had, let's say, just to go back to that exchange example that I was giving a little bit earlier, but you know that there's particular machines that no matter what you do, it's just not being recognized as an exchange machine.
Yeah.
Highly unlikely, but it's potential.
happens.
So you could build that subgroup functionality, and so you have your search going on for just exchange, and then you add an additional and section to that, or excuse me, an or section, and say, or this extra data field has been populated. Okay?
The way that the groups get populated, the auto join for the role-based groups, it literally searches for the existence of that role on the server.
Right.
So if it didn't take the role perfectly or correctly, if it's not in the registry, if it's not in the group structure that is supposed to be on that server, it's not going to show up in Automate correctly, so it might not show up in the auto join.
Correct.
Very rare, but I've seen once.
I've seen it once or twice before as well. So if we add that or section to it, that search, hey, now we have that script functionality that we could apply to that subgroup to then manually add it to that parent group.
Absolutely.
So again, that was not the ideal example that I could probably come off with, but I'm coming with this off the cuff, so it just took me a moment.
But this is another instance of sanitizing the data going into your system so that you're certain that your auto join or the search that's feeding the members into your group is really giving you what you wanted by having two criteria to check.
Very true, very true. All right. Any other questions that popped up?
Those are the first two, none so far yet. Maybe we could go through the EDF place for the info tab,
Excuse me, yes, I
where
did.
they show up.
Absolutely. There we go. So, oh, that's because I'm creating. Let's go ahead and cancel out of that. No, I don't want to save that. Come on.
All right, got to say yes.
Oh, I do.
Double negative.
Oops, my bad.
Do you really not want to save this?
So let's go ahead and go over to that info tab. This is incredibly useful because I can apply extra data fields to here. That was what I was talking about a little bit earlier.
Yes, sir.
So if there's a drop down I want to apply to all of these machines or any other additional piece of information that I want to add to this particular tile, I can go ahead and build those out. We call them EDFs a lot of the time, but really it's just any field that you would like to add as informational or again, a search criteria for these particular machines. We can add that to this info tab to make it more useful for you.
Very nice.
Yeah.
And that was the end of the questions so far.
Okay. Well, I'll give you guys a couple more minutes. So if you have any additional questions, we're more than happy to hear those out from you guys. Thank you so much for your time. Go ahead.
One extra thing, can you go back to the group
Sure.
display? We didn't mention template priority.
Oh, excuse me. We did not mention template priority.
Groups are, please go ahead.
No, after you.
Groups are hierarchical, and with the parent-child relationship, we have inheritance between parents and children. So the parent above a child is going to have a template on him, potentially, and that will apply to the child. Now, as we mentioned, multi-tenancy for groups in Automate means that computers are going to be in multiple groups, which means they can have multiple templates applied to them. How do they sort them out, DBB?
By our priority.
Please.
Absolutely. So we have priorities going from 1 to 10, if I remember correctly,
Yes, sir.
10 being the highest priority within the system. So if there's ever a conflict between the two agent templates, or excuse me, it's reverse. So 1 has the highest priority, 10 has the lowest priority. Always get that mixed up.
Me
My
too.
apologies for that. So if I have a template that has a priority of 1 and I have a template that has a priority of 10, and there's a conflict between the two of them, then the one with the higher priority is going to win.
That's it.
That's it.
And this applies to all the behaviors that are granted by templates, including branding and schedules and the
Remote
FQDN,
access,
remote
FQDN,
access, everything.
like that, it's going to have that functionality.
Very nice. Thank you.
Hey, no problem.
I think that's complete.
No, okay. So then on that note, thank you all so much for joining us today. If you have any additional questions on that, please feel free to email us at education@connectwise.com. Or if there is a webinar that you would like to see, hey, we'd love to hear from you guys.
Please.
Go ahead. Tell us what any feedback, anything you would like to see us do. We'd be happy to do that for you.
Absolutely.
I believe this is the last webinar for us on the Automate side for the year.
2019.
Yeah, so that's another successful year for us.
Why, thank you.
Thank you, sir. And thank you all for joining us today. You have yourself a wonderful holiday season, and we hope to see you in 2020.
Stay safe.
Take care.